Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning. I am pleased to welcome you to this side event for the launch of the International Year of Glaciers Preservation, jointly organized by ICMOD and ESCAP. At the outset, I would like to share a beautiful description of glaciers that I found on the ICMOD website. Home to more life, culture, beauty, and biodiversity. Microcosm of the world around us and the source of drinking water for close to 2 billion people. It is a place where, quite literally, the earth comes together, and it's a rich spans across everything, regions, countries, landscapes, and languages. But despite its global importance, the Hindu Kush Himalaya remain one of the poorest and most neglected regions in the world. Being at the top of the world, changes happen here before they happen anywhere else. And the beat of this place vibrates across the globe. When I read this, it reminded me of Carl Sagan's essay, Pale Blue Dot, inspired by photograph of Earth taken by Voice 1 in 1990 from the distance of 6 billion kilometers away. As the spacecraft was departing our planetary neighborhood, it turned around for the one last look at its home planet. So it is a reminder of our fragile existence in the vast cosmos. So when I was reading, the description of Hindu Kush Himalayan glaciers by ICMOD, that really reminded me about the fragile existence of Earth and also fragile existence of the glacier. It's not only Hindu Kush Himalayan glaciers, also Pamir glaciers and glaciers everywhere in Asia and other continents. So we all know that glaciers are critical to life. They play pivotal role in the hydrological cycle, serving as a natural water towers for billions of people across Asia, particularly in South Asia and Central Asia. Glaciers not only sustain those who depend on rivers originating from them, but they are also crucial climate regulators, influencing temperature, rainfall, and atmospheric circulation across Asia. They mitigate global warming by reflecting heat away from the Earth's surface and acting as a massive heat sink that help moderate temperature across the region. So there is overwhelming scientific evidence that glaciers are retreating globally due to rising temperature. The accelerated melting of glaciers due to climate change pose severe threats to water security, the energy food ecosystem nexus, and affects many sectors like agriculture, hydropower, tourism, trade, and transportation. Also, melting glaciers and permafrost are creating new hazards and exacerbating existing ones, thereby increasing the risk of disasters. This underscores the urgent need for immediate, ambitious action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, stabilize our climate, preserve glaciers, and secure sustainable future for all. But despite this immense significance, mountain glaciers have not well received attention at the climate COPs. However, now you are here, we have a new momentum in mobilizing global awareness and action. In 2022, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring this year, 2025, as the International Year of Glaciers Preservation and designating March 21st, so 2 months from now, as the World Day of Glaciers. So today, the official launch of International Year of Glacier Preservation features a high-level plenary opening and series of online side events, including this. So UN and international organizations have united under 4 dedicated task force teams. 1, global campaign. 2, conferences and capacity building. 3, research and monitoring. And 4, policy advocacy and resource mobilization. So this side event will provide insights and facilitate the discussions on cooperative strategies to mitigate the impact of glaciers melt on downstream communities. It will also emphasize the importance of regional data sharing for building climate resilience strategies. It will also highlight the vital role of the youth inclusion in driving collective action and shaping the path forward. So with these words, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to all participants joining this side event and look forward to strengthening regional cooperation on our shared challenges. So with that, I conclude my own remarks, and we have for presentations, we have 2 leading scientists who will be setting the scene of our discussion today. First, I would like to invite Mr. Farooq Azam, Senior Cryosphere Specialist ISHMOD, to present on climate change and glacier response in the Himalaya. So, Mr. Farooq, you have 7 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Sangbin, NAM Director, Environment and Development Division, ESCAP, for setting the background. So I will start my presentation. So please let me know if I am audible properly and the presentation is visible to all.
Yes, voice and presentation. Yeah, PPTs are clear. Yeah.
Okay, so so I will be talking about climate changes and Himalayan glaciers' response to the climate over last some decades, and maybe a little bit of future of these glaciers. So I'm working as intervention manager for Cryosphere at ECMOD. So when we are celebrating this International Year for Glaciers Preservation, it is very important for all of us to know that the cryosphere is also having some other hydrology components like snow and permafrost. So when we are talking about glaciers, but the message is equally important for snow and permafrost in the region as well. So if we see the HKH range, so from east to west, it is extending almost 2,500 kilometers long. And it is having around 2.7 million square kilometers of basin area covered by Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra river systems. So altogether, there are around 40,000 glaciers, which are having around 42,000 square kilometers of glaciarized cover. And the region is also having an average snow cover area of around 1.5 million square kilometers square. And the permafrost, which is a relatively new in cryospheric monitoring in the HKH region, is also expected to be around 16 times more than the glaciarized cover in the HKH. So altogether, these cryospheric components, they are providing water, and this water is being used by the downstream communities. So more than 1 billion people are depending on this water partly for their daily usage. The industries are also using this water, and around 600,000 square kilometer of area is being irrigated in these river basins. And altogether, we also have around 25,000 megawatt energy production in these river basins. So if we talk about the climate of the Himalaya, so I will go very brief over this. So the HKH range is actually influenced by 2 circulation systems. During winter time, the western disturbances are bringing precipitation, which are mainly in the form of snow over Karakoram and western Himalayan region. And during the summertime, Indian summer monsoon is bringing precipitation towards the central and eastern Himalaya. And also there is some reach to the western and Karakoram regions. So altogether, the effect is like we have lots of precipitation around up to 2,500 to 3,000 millimeter in the central and eastern part of the Himalaya. But the western Himalayan Karakoram, they receive much less precipitation because of the interior orogeny of these ranges. So if you see the right side, we have these two panels. So first top panel is showing the temperature trends over last 40 years from ERA 5 data. And we realize that the temperature trends are positive. So temperature is increasing almost everywhere. However, the rates are slightly different in different regions. But towards at the bottom panel, if we see the precipitation patterns are pretty different than temperature. So we have increase in precipitation in central and eastern part of the Himalaya. But we have decreasing precipitation trends over the Karakoram region and western part of the this HKH range. So if we see as a result, these glaciers in the Karakoram, these glaciers in the HKH range, basically they are showing overall glacier mass wastage. So this figure shows the mass wastage of these glaciers from satellite data. And if we see the this red rectangle, then this is showing the Himalayan range. And in this Himalayan range, we have the wastage, which is very different from one region to other region. So the studies, they suggest that we have continuous mass wastage since 1970s over the Himalayan glaciers, but the patterns are pretty heterogeneous. But if we move towards the northwest of this HKH range over the Karakoram region, then we realize that these glaciers, they are in balanced states since 1970s. And this anomalous behavior is called as Karakoram anomaly. And some couple of recent studies, they also suggested that since 2015, these glaciers are also facing some wastage, and probably the Karakoram anomaly is towards its end. This another picture comes from the Highwise compilation review work of EC mode. And if we see in this actually different regions, the mass balance patterns are shown from 1975 to 2000 and then post 2000. So unanimously in all ranges in the HKH region, we have increased mass loss post 2000. That is a direct sign of increasing temperatures over the region. So let us see what has been happening on glaciers when we go on the glacier and do some in situ measurements. So this figure is showing the observation network which was developed by Geological Survey of India for the first time in the Himalaya back in 1974. So we have finished just 50 years now. And at the same time, in towards the end of 1974, some Japanese and some Nepalese, they also did some work on a Nepalese glacier called AX010. And after that, several different organizations worked over different time periods. And at the moment, we have 38 glaciers where we have some observations from the ground. Unfortunately, these observations are from small glaciers, easy to access glaciers, and the observations, they last only 10 to 15 years. And it is a very unfortunate situation that even after 50 years of first observation, we still don't have any observation from the Karakoram region. So altogether, we have around 300 mass balance observations at annually scale from these 38 glaciers. The distribution is shown in this figure as red dots, and the red dots, the bigger size is showing the more wastage, and smaller size is showing the less wastage. And altogether, mean wastage of these glaciers is minus 0.67 meter water equivalent per year over 1975 to 2023. If we try to understand how the things have been happening post 2000 as we observed from the satellite data, then in order to do that, what we have done actually here, so the data is shown as differently for pre-2000 period and post-2000 period. So this green curve is showing the distribution of mass balance data sets before 2000, and the red one is showing post 2000. And there is a clear shift towards more negative mass balances post 2000. That is showing the reaction of glaciers against increasing temperature. So the mean mass wastage has almost doubled post 2000 from minus 0.40 to minus 0.77 meter water equivalent per year. So if you see how the things are expected to happen in future, So we can see these things separately in terms of temperature and precipitation. So what we have observed from the recent trends that the extreme cold events, they are significantly decreasing, and extreme warm events, they are significantly increasing since 1960s. And in the future too, the frequency of intensity of warm days and warm nights are expected to increase. And if we see the precipitation, the extreme high precipitation or extreme low precipitation, both the frequency of these both have increased. And they act differently, because if we have a high extreme precipitation, then it may result in globe debris flow landslide. And if we have very low precipitation, then it results in drought situation. So similar patterns are expected to happen in the future as well. So toward the right side, if we see the panel, which are showing the increasing temperature in near future up to 2040, and in long-term future after 2040. So in both cases, the temperature are expected to increase, and the frequency of extreme precipitation is also expected to increase. So as a result, what we can expect from the Himalayan cryosphere. So there was a study recently done in 2017 that suggested that if there is 1.5 degree rise in global temperature, as a result, the HKH region will lose 2/3 of their glacier volume by 2021. And this was the idea set in Paris Agreement, that we have to limit the temperature under 1.5 degree by the end of 21st century. The situation is already very worrisome, because we have already crossed in 2024 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature rise. So this is going to, of course, increase the lake area and the number of lakes in the region. That will affect, that will increase the probability of having more disasters in the region in coming future. Similarly, snow-covered areas, the snow volumes are expected to decrease, and snow elevation will rise to higher altitudes. And permafrost, which I did not discuss, of course, in this short presentation, that is also expected to thaw, and active layer thickness will increase for this too. As a result, there will be downstream consequences. So it will impact requirement of 1 billion people in these three large river basins. It will also affect the hydropower generation as well as irrigation systems, and it will also affect the likelihood of disasters in the future. So there are some key messages towards that. So what we can do, actually, we need to have more capacity in the region so that we can have more observations at better confidence levels in the region. And we also need to explore some regions where we don't have any observations so far from the glaciers, like Karakoram, Zanskar, Sikkim region in the Himalaya. We also need to focus on large-scale monitoring, because the idea we have is coming mainly from the small glaciers, which are very sensitive glacier for climate change. And when we are trying to understand the glacier and climate interactions, we also need to install high altitude automatic weather stations so that we can understand these interactions better. And due focus is also needed for glacier hazard interactions. And towards the end, the last message is that we need to initiate permafrost observations, because permafrost is also affected like the snow and glaciers if there is change in climate. So thank you very much for your attention. And this is the last message. The International Year for Glaciers Preservation 2025 is just marking the start of the decade of action of cryospheric sciences, where we need to stay focused, committed, and we need to drive positive changes over the next decade, which is very essential for the holistic understanding and proper water management downstream in the HKH region.
Thank you, Dr. Farooq, for this nice presentation describing current situation, also providing those key messages, 5 or 6 messages on the action forward. And due to time, we have to move on to next presentation. So our next speaker will be Dr. Sanjay Srivastava, Chief of our ESCAP's Disaster Risk Reduction. Sanjay, for maybe 7 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Dr. Sangbin Farooq, for giving this opportunity to me. And I'm just starting where our Mr. Farooq uh, concluded with the key message: stay focused in International Year of Glaciers Preservation. So, can I have my first slide, please? So, stay focused on glaciers preservation. There are some initiatives, particularly the science-based cooperation. I thought I will flag to this part of it. Our work, particularly ESCAP, is more on the impact part of the glaciers, or glaciers, what we call the hazards. What could be the potential impact? And that impact cannot be just in one country, one region, it's a regional impact. So for regional impact, there are a lot of science my colleagues presented earlier, which are like a teleconnections and the drivers of the risk from the west part of the third pole, which is primarily driven by the snow, the glaciers, to the east part, which is also driven by the precipitation and less. So you understand the key drivers of the risk and impact all through the third pole region, which involves many countries, and it's unless there are collaboration among the countries, it will be very hard to manage the risk. My next slide is to share with you what to do to understand the impact and especially manage food, water, energy nexus. The relationship between the west part of third pole to the east part of third pole, some driven by the snow, some driven by glaciers, quite a bit are driven by the precipitation. So what is really important is you involve the agencies concerned to work together. The point I wanted to flag is the risk of the glaciers, are quite a bit season specific. In a particular season, you will have more occurrence of the disaster related events. In certain point of time, you have high snowfall, certain point of time, high rainfall, many driven by monsoon, many driven by atmospheric aerosols. So, you have to understand at different geographical location, the interactions between the climate and the cryosphere phenomenon. This is where you need multiple agency to part of this network. My next slide is to tell you how we are bringing this multiple agencies from the west to east of the third pole together. I think this is one of a game-changing initiatives led by WMO and partner. We call science-led regional cooperation mechanism, third pole regional climate center network. You can see this because of the vast Asian glaciers. It was divided into three nodes, network nodes. The northern part network nodes, which are Tansian and many of the mountain around the China, Central Asia, is led by China Meteorological Administration. The southern third pole node, which Hindu Kush Himalaya becomes part of it, led by India, and then rest all the adjoining countries are part of the node. Western part is led by Pakistan. This is the Karakoram and Pamir mountain region along with the Central Asia. So you see, this is a unique partnership framework built on the leading hydromet agencies of the three countries. Now, these hydromet agencies are supported by the agency which have a multi-sectoral background that also include EC-mode, the third pole environment, ESCAP, then the mountain research network. So in one network, you see Hydromet, which provides the operational services within the season, throughout the year. On the other side, knowledge network. So this is a unique partnership which captures the diversity and the vast Asian mountain regions. My next slide is to tell you what this partnership brings about, the product of those partnership across the science agencies and many of the knowledge institutions. It brings out what we call the seasonal outlook in a particular winter or summer or monsoon season, what is going to be the weather in the third pole vast region. ESCAP value addition is not what weather will be, but what weather will do, how weather will impact particularly the infrastructure, the people, the ecosystem. So together in a partnership form, we add value to each other's product and develop some mechanisms which is quite actionable and enhances the capability of early warning, early action in this diverse cascading risk scenario. My next slide is to tell you, this is one of the products just developed. This was a seasonal temperature and rainfall product which came from the third pole climate forum. Now what was done to this is translate this in form of the impact across the sector, impact on agriculture sector, water sector, energy sector. So this is disseminated through our risk and resilience portal. It's a data platform where the hazard layer comes from South Asia Climate Forum. We have AI machine learning based automated impact based forecasting, which translate this into in form of the impact. And you can see this season, this winter, what could be the potential impact of the weather in the third pole, let us say the southern part of the third pole, on the agriculture system, on the water system. So these are some actionable products. My last slide is an effort from UN ESCAP to convert this impact assessment of third pole region, not only in terms of temperature and precipitation data, also slope, elevation, temperature, glaciers, snow and sand and dust storm, because this is the aerosol which contributes to the impact. And then finally, through seasonal forecast, regularly bring out the impact for customers. So this is all from ESCAP side, a unique collaboration among the agencies, not only Hydromet, but all science agencies, regional, global, country level, to deal with the risk scenario of the third pole. I think this was my last slide. Thank you. Okay, sorry, the last one is where it will lead to. So it will lead to the pathway for adaptation and resilience, because you need to understand the seasonal pattern of the risk. We have enough research on the long-term climate impact in the third pole, but this is what is going to happen next month or in months from now. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sanjay, for your efficient presentation. And as you mentioned, so we are not only looking at what weather will be, but what weather will do.
Yeah.
So looking at more impact-based forecasting, and then you highlighted this seasonal, season-specific changes. And then earlier, Dr. Farooq was also highlighting these local specific changes, while there is also general changes that we can observe. And certainly we also observe this polarized precipitation patterns across the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. So now this will bring to our panel discussion with our young scientists. So with starting with Ms. Mashina Arya, Program Manager and Community Weave at Earth Just Ecosystem Foundation, and also Youth Climate Leader with UNICEF India. So those are, as I mentioned, these local specific impacts and also season specific impacts. So we are really observing, and with your experience working at the local community level. So what experience would you share with this climate impact, especially on water and food production and other household level? Thank you.
Thank you, Nam, for putting up the question. And I'd be very happy to share the experiences. I am particularly from the Hindu Kush Karakoram Himalayan region, and I'm a resident here. And we face the impacts of glacial melt and impacts of what is happening because of global warming. So just to showcase, I'll just share my screen. Before that, I'll just introduce myself. He introduced me as a community weaver. So we have a very nice community where we, work for the environment and work about glacial melting and a lot of things here. And since my childhood, I've faced a lot of climate, water scarcity. And I think I have this anxiety also about water. If there is no water, I feel like, oh, there is no water. So just to introduce and be in the moment, he told about the community. And mostly the stories that I'm going to share with you today will be from the Indian states of Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. So the Himalayan belt is very, very big, but I would just cover the two areas because one, Uttarakhand, I was born in, and Uttarakhand is again a very beautiful place, a very beautiful snow-capped mountains are there, and Himachal Pradesh. So these are the two areas that I will cover from India. And there are some news that we keep hearing every time, and there is no newspaper, no, YouTube channels, or everywhere these days I'm only hearing about glaciers melting, flood happening, earthquakes happening, and so much so that it gets us into anxiety of why are we even living in the mountains. So this is just one Uttarakhand glacier melting, which was very alarming for all of us. It triggered a lot of water scarcity. So it's not really, I'm talking not really about 2025 or so. It just happened last year. And to show you one amazing data point, and which was a shocker for me, was that 900 glaciers located in Uttarakhand, the state that I live in, are melting due to global warming. And because of that, in Uttarakhand, there are a lot of religious places also, holy pilgrimages, and there are a lot of tourists going to these places. So what happens due to water scarcity is, a lot of people there, constructions happening and all. An entire village, it is called, there is one village which had to relocate from their place, and they had no place to go. This is one story that I wanted to cover. There is this Dhauladhar glacier which is receding at a fast rate. It is decreasing in the Kangra Valley. Kangra Valley is again for the tourists. So what I wanted to share with all of you is that the mountain economy thrives through tourism, but there is no water. And because of a lot of influx of tourists, what happens is earthquakes, flooding, and we are not able to meet the day-to-day needs of water. And these are some news clippings that I'm just showcasing you, that there is so much water insecurity happening in our area. And now I'm coming back to this important thing, that because of this, last year I was working with the educators, and one of the educators lives in the higher altitudes in one of the beautiful villages of Kinnaur. He told me that there is no water at all. There is no water. Therefore, people are trying to create artificial glaciers. And there is this Hangu villagers who have tried creating artificial glaciers. And I keep questioning myself that this is really sad, that because to meet the daily needs and to, have water for the summers, they have to create artificial lakes, artificial glaciers. And I questioned myself, I questioned the community that I'm part of, that can we really alter the natural ecosystem? Can we really intervene and intervene in the creation of the natural ecosystem? So are we really, I think we are creating disasters by more interventions. And here I would also, there is this acute water shortage that happened in Shimla. Because of that, Shimla is known to be a very nice, actually Himachal and Uttarakhand are known to be welfare states where there is no fight, it's a little bit peaceful and everything. But because of water scarcity, because of glacial melts happening, floods happening, a lot of stress is happening, people were really fighting. I would not waste time here to showcase you the YouTube video, but this is the general, you can see this picture everywhere. You can see this happening in India almost every time when there is water scarcity. For almost like weeks and weeks, you will not get water. Yeah, and here I am not even talking about, hygiene and everything. I'm talking about potable water, drinking water. This is the case. And because of this, what happens? People get only 10 liters of water for 2 to 4 days. And that is how they cook food. And there is no peace at all because everybody is in stress. They will fight for water. And whenever there is a tank coming, these are called tankers, the huge buses and all. The vehicle, it is called the tanker. The local thing is calling them tankers. And they come, there is a huge amount of, people coming and fighting for water, and they compromise with hygiene, and they compromise with health. When I'm talking about an health and hygiene, I would also cover the social and cultural and economic aspect, because they are poor, because they can't afford water, they can't, they can't have water for personal hygiene. They look poor and they look very unhygienic. That's why they face discrimination also. So what I'm saying is the impact of glacial, the impact of so much water scarcity, and so much water going into the plain regions, and not really retain, the water doesn't retain in the hilly regions. We face a lot of other problems here. And this is one of the dams that I'm talking about. I last year visited one of the villages. This is Kacham Dam in 2000, and this is the state of the dam right now. So it was really sad for me to see that there is no water. And here I would say that right now what we are experiencing in the Himalayas is just the tip of this iceberg. I can't even express how much we are facing, because while we are talking about it, there are for one entire week you would not get water, and you have these water storing tanks and all in your homes. They are of 1,000 liters. That 1,000 liters you have to use for the entire week, and there are almost like 9 family members. So 1,000 liters, and we face acute water scarcity. Even the government is trying to help us with the water scarcity, but it is not happening. And why I'm focusing on water scarcity is because all the water that, because we are talking about glacial melt, and there is no water retaining in the mountains. It is all going to the plain areas, and in the plain areas it is flooding. So it's like a snowball effect that is happening because of glacial melt. And because of glacial melt, one more thing is happening is increase in the lakes. And like sir was saying before, last year only, a lot of places where there is river beside them or there is a lake, it was just overflowing and causing harm to life and causing harm to biodiversity and everything. So here I would also like to share that we know a lot of things in our brains, we know a lot of things from our heart, we know a lot of, but we are doing certain things in the mountains. I don't know who is to be blamed. I don't know what is the solution. But at the same time, I feel there is a disconnect between our head, hearts, and hands in our region at least. And we need to really reimagine what we are doing, because the plight is very sad. And especially women have to go to, far off places to get just one bucket of water to just eat and make food. With this I would rest, and I think the time is also up. And there is a famous thing that uh, I always say to myself that not a one day is without an impact you go through in the world. So just one important thing that I wanted to share here. There are a lot of stories, there are a lot of insights that are here in the Himalayan regions. Girls can't go to schools because they have to go to the go and fetch water. So just water becomes so much important, changes life for everyone, changes life for the girls, changes life. This
Thank you. This is a touching story, and then this personal story, personal journey is equally important with the scientific knowledge and data that we have. And also the different impact of a glacial melt, as you mentioned. When it comes to plain area, it becomes flooding, but for this hilly area, it is not. You have a constant challenge of water scarcity. So today, due to time, we are not able to listen to all your stories, but hoping we have other opportunities, especially this kind of really localize the impact and livelihood of the people. Yeah. And then we will move on to next speaker, Ms. Susan Maranda, master students of hydrology and meteorology, and also program assistant at the Small Earth Nepal. So, you know, Dr. Farooq highlighted the importance of monitoring and more localized monitoring and the large-scale monitoring. And also he highlighted the need to, you know, strengthen monitoring on permafrost. And I understand that you are also studying or working on this monitoring and data sharing. So what's your view on you know, importance of monitoring and data sharing for creating opportunities? Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Definitely. So the Hindu Kush Himalayan region and the Himalayas are very vulnerable to climate change. And we know that they are warming at an alarming rate. And it's warming at a rate twice than the global average. So, and it definitely creates an adverse impact. And we can see that in the past few years, there has been like increasing in these disasters in the Himalayas with gulfs, landslides, floods, avalanches, and also the frequencies of extreme events have increased with changes in precipitations and shifts in precipitation. So for that, we definitely require, and we do not know the impact of those risks. We are not able to understand this risk because of the insufficient monitoring in these Himalayas, and also because we have this remote and inaccessible areas in the Himalayas. So we have very sparse networks of stations in these areas to understand the change also. So I think in this case, collaborations amongst the scientific communities, like cross-border collaborations and collaborations among experts from various disciplines would be valuable, not just for like data sharing purpose, but also in terms of sharing resources and innovative ideas and discussions so that we can combat climate change, or we can work towards making mitigation strategies or adaptation strategies. And not just, I think when we talk about changes in this particular region, it's not just about scientific research and collaborations, but also collaborations amongst international agencies and local communities, the youths and the decision makers, so that everyone can come across certain grounds for discussions and decision making, so that we just don't make mitigation strategies, but now with the trends of climate change, I think we should move towards making adaptation strategies as well, and come up with ideas and strategies to cope up with climate change. So definitely, I think collaborations are important for data sharing purposes and to bridge this gap between monitorings in the Himalayas. And I'd like to give this example of how we at the Small Earth Nepal have this cross-border collaborations and experts from various fields. So we came up with this idea of maybe we could use monasteries as a potential site for monitoring stations, for strengthening the monitoring stations in the Himalayas. And yes, I think it would be very valuable if we go towards a collaborative approach to address the issues and help the livelihoods and the ecosystem it houses, the unique the unique fragile ecosystem that the Himalayas have. So that's I think one of the ways to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Sousa, highlighting this inefficient monitoring and then the need for enhancing cross-border collaboration, not only among scientists, but involving diverse stakeholder groups, international agency, and local community government officials. So you are highlighting this this horizontal and both vertical and horizontal cooperation, and then also really not only mitigation strategies but adaptation strategies, which was also highlighted by earlier presentation by my colleague Sanjay. So, and then now we will move on to Next speaker. Now I invite Ms. Aishwarya Sanas. So you are PhD candidate for international relations and governance studies. I guess in that regard, you might have the points what earlier speakers spoke about, the cross-border cooperation, yeah, and also your own views on how to create these opportunities of collaboration, whether assessment or data sharing and monitoring.
Yeah. I hope I'm audible well. Thank you for the question, Dr. Nam. Thank you to UNESCAP and ICIMOD for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to be a part of this panel amongst such esteemed personalities. My name is Aishwarya, and I'm a PhD student based in Delhi, in India. My dissertation revolves around understanding how cryosphere sciences in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region have evolved in the last few years. And I'll try my best to put forward my thoughts. Ultimately, I think why all of us have gathered here and what all of us are trying to do, including me through my own research, which is a very tiny part of the larger effort, is that we are concerned with the question of how to govern this region that is so sensitive to certain environmental issues. And what would be those effective governance mechanisms and policies? Essentially, the governance question here is a knowledge problem because it is generally understood that a lack of knowledge is the reason for lack of action. However, knowledge alone will lead to action is also a very limited theory in itself. A lack of action could be because of several other reasons, and knowledge is not the only thing that will fill the gap, but certainly it is the most important problem that we have at hand that we need to deal with. So the question that Dr. Nam said, let me just quickly double click on three key words that I was able to see. One is data, one is sharing, and also opportunity in general. Data in the cryosphere research domain generally pertains to the various data that is gathered, the numbers that are gathered in situ from the field. So having access to a lot of glacier, snow, ice measurements, having access to remote sensing images, also having access to the softwares and the programs that make the data interpretation easier. Lack of data in the Himalayan region has always been a problem. I mean, at the outset, we might feel that this data scarcity narrative has become a big one since the 2007, in the aftermath of the fourth assessment report of the IPCC, when we realized that we don't know much about this region. And also, there was a very famous article by this glaciologist, Dr. Tobias Balch, The State and the Fate of Himalayan Glaciers. However, if you look at knowledge production in this region, data scarcity goes back, way back. There is a very famous book by Jack Ives, The Himalayan Dilemma, and another paper written by Thompson and Warburton, Uncertainty on a Himalayan Scale, in the 1980s and 90s. And it is all talking about how we do not have much data and that we need more data. Today, we have some data on the region, but it is lying in silos, separated by institutions and inaccessible across political boundaries. And that is a big problem. As a social science researcher, when I hear the word data, what comes to my mind is that yes, data is the biggest or the most important object, but it is one of the object in this vast spectrum of knowledge of the Himalayan region that is important to us. So I think my first takeaway is that we need to evolve from a very data-centric narrative to a more inclusive, broad, encompassing, knowledge-centric narrative. Data has a certain quantitative positivist bias, and it very naturally excludes a lot of other knowledge that the region holds, perspectives from social science, local and indigenous cultures, experience-based knowledge from journalists, from social media, from activists, advocates, which can complement data in many ways. So that was my thoughts on data per se and how we need to evolve from a data-centered perspective to a more broader knowledge-centered perspective. Secondly, sharing. Why is sharing important? I think sharing in this region makes perfect sense because everything at our disposal is limited. And I'll focus upon four kinds of limitations that we have. One is limited manpower. Cryosphere research community in the region is a very small community. Secondly, it is not as properly institutionalized. That is, the infrastructure for training students at an undergrad and a postgrad level is still at a very niche level in the region because it's a very young field in itself. There are very high barriers of entry in this field, and similarly, a lot of challenges that researchers face for their upward mobility in the region. And it again goes back to the fact that limited manpower and a very young field of research. Secondly, we have limited time in light of the problem that we are facing. Third, we have limited access to the region. The ECMOD website and several other data sets tell us how many thousands of glaciers are there in the region, but only 28 of them are being monitored. Do we have the luxury of time to monitor all these 40,000, 50,000 glaciers? No. So generally, the way in which this domain works is that there are representative glaciers who are studied, and the result from these selective glaciers is then scaled to a pan-Himalayan level, which leads to a lot of uncertainty. Thus, pooling of this limited wealth of knowledge that we have is the best possible chance for getting a good understanding of what is happening in the region. And finally, limited technical resource. We are a developing set of countries in South Asia. We have very limited access to the most superior kind of technology, instruments, drones, even softwares that a lot of our foreign knowledge counterparts have that are not available here. And thus, sharing and pooling of this limited state in which we have to work is the best possible chance. Opportunity. Yes, I will conclude in a minute. If that's okay. Yeah. So, what is the opportunity that this will bring to us for different kinds of stakeholders? First, local communities, indigenous communities. If we move from a very data centric to a more knowledge centric view, experiences and cultures of local knowledge will be taken into consideration, making sure that our policies of adaptation and resilience are not technocentric but more human centric. Secondly, this will invite more interdisciplinary analysis, perspectives from social science, public administration, media, etc. What this means for the cryosphere research community is that the research community in this region will get more credibility and legitimacy in the global platform, which is very important because we are very niche in itself. And finally, including different stakeholders in itself will enable more effective decision making for governing the region. So, I mean, those were just some of my thoughts. And with that, I will end. Thank you so much for inviting me once again. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanas. I was turning my microphone on because there was disconnection. So not try to ask you to wrap up.
Oh,
but anyway,
okay.
so we don't have much
Yeah.
time. And thank you for highlighting this, the need for evolving data-centric to more broader knowledge-centric, and then how to, so what are the current lack of resources or limited resources, and then how to overcome those limited resources by sharing across countries, across sectors, yeah, and then thereby also creating opportunities. And you mentioned one highlight. So this especially local researchers, young researchers, to be really part of a global community for assessment. That point is important, so that we can have utilizing your language. So it's we can incorporate a more sorry, I lost my points. So this I mean, without incorporating local specific conditions into global knowledge, we cannot really address that. Thank you. And then now, next, our last speaker here is Mr. Saga Goreralla, who is a young climate advocate and also agricultural research, and currently serving as a Asia Pacific focal point for UN major groups for children and youth focusing on DRR. So you are working on also climate scenarios. And then, so sharing your experience and knowledge on climate scenarios about youth, and which are also aligned with the food security and agriculture, taking into account this glaciers matter. So you have maybe 4 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, hello and namaste from the land of mountains. I myself belong to the province where Mount Everest and all the mountains are also located. So, and I echo all the words said by my three fellow young panelists. I echo every word. So I believe that youth are the change maker, and like they have the great potential to bring a change. And amidst the climate crisis right now, which is happening around the globe, and the melting of glaciers and the livelihood of people, the agriculture, the food system, everything is getting really, really affected. I think that we youth need to strongly advocate for the better policies that prioritize the glacier protection, sustainable water management in not only in the Nepal but in all across the Hindu Kush Himalayan region and all across the region where all the glaciers are present. So also I think like by championing the sustainable agriculture practices like regenerative agriculture, like precision agriculture, I think we can promote also like we can promote crop diversification. So I think in climate smart agriculture technologies, I think these are very key because the climate crisis is also like ruining the agriculture system, and all the people around the mountain, the livelihood of people around the mountain is really, really affected. I myself had the opportunity to go to the Khumbu region, the people around there, and their even the livestock, the agriculture, it is really, really devastated, and people are very, very worried. And also the intensity of the recently, like few months back, there was like a big gulf in Thame village. So the livelihood is also like very, very affected. So I believe that we need to indulge in more startups and innovative technologies, like we focusing on sustainable agriculture, climate smart agriculture, and also now when there is scarcity of water, I think we need to focus on like drip irrigation. We need to focus on water harvesting technologies, everything. So I think these things are very, very key. So, and I believe that there are a lot of people from indigenous community, marginalized community in the region where the glaciers are located, and we need to highlight them. And young people are doing a lot, but it is not enough. And I think there should be more robust policies for supporting agriculture livelihood, also to prevent them from the disasters and to make it more resilient. So I think that youth advocacy is also essential for the in the transboundary level, like not only from Nepal and other region, but all across the globe. So we need more transboundary collaborations, sharing of knowledge, data, and I think my colleague mentioned data. So I think data sharing is also very essential so that we can predict the future events, disastrous events, and so that and we can prevent future disasters and promote the livelihood, resilient livelihood. Also, I think we can integrate GIS technology. Also, we can integrate early warning system. I think these are very, very key in the context of like the mountainous region nearby to the glacier also. And I would like to also commend the work of ICIMOD, ESCAP, UNESCO, World Meteorological Organization, Asia Pacific World Forum, and many other networks which are supporting youth in the agriculture, climate smart agriculture, DRR, climate resilience. And I think we need more collaborations and more opportunity for the young people so that we can make more sustainable food system and to promote the livelihood of people. I think also, I think that we need to emphasize like how we can make the agriculture system more resilient. Talking about like, I think in 2025, as we are celebrating International Year of Glaciers Preservation, so I think it can be a great stage for the young people to sign. Like we are through storytelling, through waving narratives of resilience, recovery, through technologies. I think we can capture and advocate through art, poetry, activism, and turn the plight of glaciers into a rallying cry that transcends generation. Finally, today I urge my fellow youths to take a stand, to innovate, educate, and collaborate, whether through community initiatives, policy advocacy, or scientific research. Every action counts in protecting our glaciers and ensuring sustainable future. Let us be the generation that not only foresee a better world, but actively builds on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sagar. Youth as a change maker, and you are highlighting this really importance and power of a youth advocate at the not only national level and transboundary and global level. And we observed the power of a youth advocate, especially during 2018 and 19, that really changed the global politics over climate action. So it will continue, and today, this brief session, it is very fortunate for us to meet with those young experts and scientists, and also with extensive local experience and having the knowledge of global processes. And now, due to time, let me move on to final one. Dr. Farooq, it's for your wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Na. So, yeah, I thought I will be making a couple of points where I will be wrapping up everything. But I made like 4.5 pages of rough notes, so it's very difficult to summarize a lot of information. Okay, so I will try, of course. So first of all, we started learning about the importance of glaciers from Dr. Nam. So he highlighted the importance of glaciers as a hydrological cycle, and also how the glaciers are controlling the overall temperature of Earth system by reflecting the radiation back to the atmosphere. And he also highlighted that we need to urgently focus on these monitoring of these glaciers in the mountains. Then we discussed about the status of glaciers, how they are melting. There is increase of melt compared to pre-2000 to post-2000 period. And the observations from satellite as well as from the field-based limited data, they indicate the same patterns of increased mass loss post-2000 as a result of increasing temperature. We also discussed that the climatic or the meteorological events, extreme events, the frequency of these is increasing, and it is expected to increase in future. That will lead to more wastage of glaciers, possibly more hazards related to glaciers like GLOF. And then we came to the talk from Dr. Srivatava, who educated us on science-based cooperations. And he also highlighted that we need to collaborate and we need to work together. He also highlighted the water, food, energy nexus, how the water coming from these glaciers and snow is impacting the food and energy. And towards that, he highlighted that we need to work together, and multiple agencies need to cooperate together to work for these understanding of the water resources in the HKH region. Then we came to the panel discussion. So I think it was really good, much more than what I expected from the young panelists. And I think it was also built on the step by step. Every panelist develops, based on the previous panelist suggestions and discussions. So here we discussed about the story of Arya, who is hailing from Uttarakhand, and she shared her own experience, personal experience of the water scarcity during her childhood she faced. And she also highlighted that the tourism is increasing in the mountain region, and as a result, we have more stress on water. And for that, to combat that, the local people, they are also coming up with some solutions such as artificial glaciers or artificial lakes. She also said that these interventions may be dangerous. However, in some of the regions like Ladakh region, these interventions, they're also helping a lot of local populations. She also highlighted that in some of the villages, we have as low as 10 liter of water availability per family for a couple of days. So because of that, there is a fight among the local people. There is a lack of hygiene. Also, there is compromised health, and that also lead to discrimination in some cases. So then Susa from Nepal, she also highlighted that there are data gaps in the HKH cryosphere, and these are mainly because of the high altitude, which makes the observation very difficult, and also because of the limited resources, because it's very expensive to monitor these high altitude regions. And she also highlighted that data sharing is very important to understand the cryospheric changes. Then at top of that, and echoing the same messages, Aishwarya added to these suggestions, and she said that cryospheric science evolution in the HKT is basically lacking the knowledge, and that is coming mainly from the data scarcity. And she also highlighted three words: data, knowledge, and sharing. Then she explained further these three words. So I will not go to details because there are a lot of details. And then towards the end, Mr. Sagar said that, of course, building on the discussions from three other panelists, he again echoed the same messages, but he also discussed the possible solutions in this region. And he suggested that we need to go for smart agriculture, and we should also need to give some, platform to new startups and new technology development so that we can combat the water issues, which are normally transboundary in nature. And I think this is all we have. I could not really wrap up everything because there are lots of information. But towards the end, I would like to say thanks to the Task Force 2, which is the main organizer, and then ISIMO team, Shimi, Paridi, Nira, and the UNESCAP team, Dr. Nam, Dr. Anita, and all the participants here, our panelists, who have given really, really excellent views. And we have a lot of information, but we also need to take some action. And like as I said in my presentation, that this is not the year where we just celebrate the glaciers for a year. At the same time, we need to see where we are standing and what are the major gaps. And for instance, I highlighted that we need to know more about permafrost, because the knowledge we have about permafrost now is as you know, the same knowledge which we had about glaciers 50-70 years ago. So we need to give due attention to the gaps, and then we need to work together, have international collaborations, and share the data. Of course, that has echoed like several times. So data sharing is very important, and then we try to come up with some joint solutions to understand the HKH cryosphere and combat the water scarcity, which we expect in the future. Thank you very much again to all the participants and the organizers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we make a photo?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Anita.
I can do the gallery. Do we have
Could
Sakar?
you,
Sagar is not there.
please
I'm
turn
here.
your,
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
please turn your camera on, Ian.
Yes, Kun. Yes, some other colleagues there.
Please feel free to join. Okay.
Yes, Ian, you're doing that? You're helping us to get some screenshots? Yes, good.
So who is taking the screenshot?
Ian,
Ian is our wizard on that.
okay, Dr. Farooq, so it's really starting for our joint work. So I look forward to really working with your team. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.